She ripped a child's crayon drawing in half and dropped it at his feet. Victoria Ashford didn't even flinch. 300 people watched a billionaire tear apart a 7-year-old girl's "Good luck, Daddy" picture, and not a single person moved. The man on his knees wasn't a janitor. He wasn't lost. He was the rightful owner of her $6.2 billion company, and she had just made the worst mistake of her life. But what happened next? Nobody, not Victoria, not the cameras, not the 200,000 people watching the live stream, saw it coming. Comment below the city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story travels. Subscribe now, because this one will stay with you. The glass hit the marble floor and shattered. Victoria Ashford didn't even look down. She just let it drop from her fingers like it meant nothing. Like the champagne inside was cheaper than water. Like the man standing 6 feet away from her was invisible.
I said, "Who let this man in?"
Her voice cut through the lobby of the Sterling Grand Hotel. Sharp, cold, the kind of voice that made people stop mid-sentence and straighten their spines. Ethan Mercer didn't straighten anything. He stood still, leather folder in his left hand, right hand in his pocket, because it wouldn't stop shaking. His suit was navy blue, off the rack. He'd bought it 4 years ago for Sarah's funeral and hadn't worn it since. "Ma'am, my name is Ethan Mercer. I'm here for the—" "You're here for the exit." Victoria stepped closer. Her heels clicked like a countdown. "It's behind you. Big glass doors. Can't miss them." The crowd shifted. 200 people in a lobby that smelled like money and fresh orchids. Tuxedos. Gowns. Diamonds catching light from chandeliers that cost more than Ethan's apartment building. Every single one of them was looking at him. "Ma'am, I have documents. If you could just—" "Documents?" Victoria laughed. Not a warm laugh. The kind of laugh that existed only to make someone else feel small. She turned to the cluster of executives behind her. "He has documents." Marcus Webb chuckled first. Then the others followed. 5 men in $10,000 suits, laughing because their boss laughed. Because that's what people like them did. Ethan opened his folder. "These are legal papers from the Belmont Trust. If you'll look at—" Victoria snatched it. She didn't ask, didn't hesitate, just reached forward and ripped it out of his hands. She flipped it open, scanned the first page, and her lip curled. Belmont Trust. Howard Belmont. She read it like it was a joke. Beneficiary, Ethan James Mercer. Controlling interest, 74%. She looked up at him, dead in the eyes. "You're claiming you own my company." "I'm not claiming anything. The trust, your company." She said it louder, for the room. She held up the folder.
"Everyone, this man, this warehouse worker, just walked into our investor gala and told me he owns Pinnacle Tech."
Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone pulled out a phone, then another, then a dozen. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Ms. Ashford, I'm asking you respectfully to review the documents with your legal team. That's all I want." "What I want is for security to do their job." Victoria snapped her fingers. Literally snapped them, like she was summoning a dog. "Get him out." 2 security guards moved forward. Big men, earpieces, uncomfortable expressions. "Hold on." Ethan raised his hand. Not aggressive, just a man asking for one more second. "Please, just read them." Victoria dropped the folder. Papers exploded across the marble. Stock certificates, trust documents, court filings, and right in the middle of it all, a piece of construction paper folded in half. Crayon, purple and yellow. A stick figure man with a cape. "Good luck, Daddy. Love, Lily." Written in wobbly 7-year-old letters, with a heart that took up half the page. It landed face up at Victoria's feet. She looked down at it. Ethan's stomach dropped. Not the drawing. Anything but the drawing. "Oh." Victoria bent down, picked it up with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. "Oh, this is precious." "Put that down." "Daddy's little cheerleader made him a picture." She held it up, turned it so the cameras could see. "Is this your business plan, Mr. Mercer? Crayon on construction paper?" "I said put it down." Ethan's voice changed, lower, harder. "Or what?" Victoria smiled. "You'll call HR?" She gripped the drawing with both hands. "Don't." She tore it in half. The sound was small, paper ripping. Nothing. But Ethan heard it like a gunshot. Lily had spent 45 minutes on that drawing, tongue sticking out the side of her mouth the way she did when she concentrated. She'd used every purple crayon in the box, because purple was Mommy's favorite color. She'd asked 3 times if luck had a C or a K in it. Victoria dropped both halves. They fluttered to the marble floor like wounded birds. "There." She wiped her fingers on her dress as if she'd touched something dirty. "Now, are we done with the performance?" Ethan bent down, both knees on cold marble. He picked up the 2 halves carefully, held them together. The tear went right through Lily's crayon heart. Someone in the crowd said, "That's awful." But they said it quietly. Nobody moved. "Somebody get this man off my floor," Victoria said. "I have investors to entertain." Ethan stayed down. He folded the torn pieces together, slid them carefully into his jacket pocket, close to his chest, and stood up slowly. His eyes were wet. He didn't blink it away, didn't hide it. "That drawing," he said, "is from my daughter. She's 7. Her mother died 2 years ago. She made that for me this morning because she wanted me to be brave." Victoria's smile didn't waver. "Touching. Still trespassing. You just tore up a dead woman's daughter's drawing. And you just wasted 5 minutes of my evening. We're even." The live stream had started 4 minutes ago. A tech blogger named Ryan Chen, 28, standing near the bar, phone aimed directly at Victoria's face. The viewer count was climbing. 10,000. 15. 20. Comments were already rolling. "Who is this woman? Why is she so cruel? Someone help that man. Is that really Victoria Ashford?" Victoria didn't notice. She'd already turned away, reaching for a fresh champagne glass from a passing server. Back to business, back to her kingdom. But Ethan didn't move. "I'm not leaving." Victoria stopped, glass halfway to her lips. "Excuse me? I'm not leaving until someone on your board reads those documents." She turned slowly. The smile was gone now. What replaced it was worse. "Marcus." Marcus Webb stepped forward. 6'1", gray at the temples, the kind of man who'd agree with whoever signed his checks. "Yes, Victoria?" "Call the police. We have a trespasser who's becoming a nuisance." "Already on it." Marcus pulled out his phone. Ethan stood alone in a circle of scattered papers. 200 people around him. Not one ally. Not one voice. His documents on the floor. His daughter's torn drawing in his pocket. And the woman who just destroyed a child's art was ordering his arrest. This was the moment most people would leave. Ethan Mercer was not most people. He'd learned that about himself 8 months ago, in a Queens apartment that smelled like laundry detergent and macaroni. It was a Tuesday. Lily was asleep, SpongeBob nightlight glowing in her room. Ethan sat at the kitchen table with a beer he hadn't touched, staring at bills. Electric, water, rent, student loan from the community college degree he never finished. The math didn't work. The math never worked. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Mercer? This is Raymond Cross. I don't want whatever you're selling. I'm not selling anything. I'm your wife's godfather. Ethan didn't hang up. Sarah had mentioned Raymond once or twice. An attorney. Old family friend. They'd lost touch before the wedding. Sarah never talked about me much, did she? She said you were kind. I am kind. I'm also a lawyer. And I need to see you tomorrow. It's about your wife's inheritance. Sarah didn't have an inheritance. We had a savings account with $1,100 in it when she died. That's what she wanted you to believe. Raymond Cross showed up the next evening. 63. Black man in a coat that had seen better days, but still held its shape. Silver hair. Glasses. He moved slowly, not because he was weak, but because he'd learned that slow men are taken seriously. He sat at Ethan's kitchen table, looked around, saw the crayon drawings on the fridge, the single dad chaos, the life of a man barely holding it together. Your wife's real name was Sarah Belmont. Ethan stared at him. Her father was Howard Belmont. The tech guy? The billionaire? The same. Sarah left that world at 22, changed her name, said she didn't want money defining her life. She met you, and for the first time, she was just Sarah. She never told me. She was going to, when the time was right. Then she got sick. Raymond's voice softened. She told me on one of our last calls. She said, "Raymond, promise me Ethan will be ready when it comes." I promised. When what comes? Raymond opened his briefcase. The documents inside were thick, legal, official. Seals and signatures and stamps that looked like they belonged in a vault. Howard Belmont died 6 months ago. His will was sealed, executed last month. Raymond laid the papers out. Sarah was his sole heir. She inherited 74% of Pinnacle Tech Holdings through an irrevocable trust. When she passed, the trust transferred to you as trustee, and your daughter Lily as beneficiary. Ethan didn't move, didn't blink. You're telling me I own a $6 billion company. I'm telling you your wife owned it, and she left it to you and Lily. You control the voting shares. You have final authority over every decision. Hiring, firing, acquisitions, everything. I load trucks for a living, Raymond. I know. I didn't go to business school. I didn't go to any school. I'm a warehouse supervisor who takes the subway. I know that too. Then how the hell am I supposed to run a tech company? Raymond leaned back, took off his glasses, cleaned them on his shirt. The gesture of a man who delivered hard news before. You don't have to run it. You have to own it. There's a difference. The board runs daily operations, but you have the power to hire, fire, set direction, approve or reject any decision over $10 million. Does the board know? No. Howard's lawyers kept it sealed. Victoria Ashford, the current CEO, she has no idea you exist. Victoria Ashford? Ethan had seen her name on magazine covers at the grocery store checkout. Power suits, confident smile. 50 most powerful women in business. She took over 3 years ago. She's smart, aggressive, and she's been stealing. Ethan's head snapped up. What? $22 million in fraudulent consulting fees. Shell companies. Offshore accounts. Howard was investigating before he died. He never got to finish. So she's a thief. An alleged thief. I have evidence, but it needs more investigation. The point is, your wife's legacy, your daughter's future, is being stolen by a woman who doesn't know you exist. The apartment was quiet. SpongeBob nightlight flickering in the hall.
Lily's breathing, soft and steady, the only sound. What do I do? You walk into her world and take back what's yours. She'll eat me alive. I don't know the first thing about... That's why I brought help.
The buzzer rang. Ethan opened the door. Diana Reeves, 41, Latina, sharp jaw, sharper eyes. She wore jeans and a blazer, like someone who'd been in boardrooms and bar fights, and won both. "You're Ethan?" "Yeah." "I'm Diana. I'm going to teach you how to walk into a room full of people who think they're better than you and prove them wrong." "And if I can't learn?" Diana looked at Lily's drawings on the fridge, at the bills on the table, at the man standing in a doorway who hadn't slept a full night in 2 years. "You already know how to survive on nothing. That's harder than anything they've ever done. We just need to channel it." The next 8 months broke Ethan open and rebuilt him. Diana came every night after Lily's bedtime. She brought financial reports,
Spreadsheets, org charts. Ethan sat at the same kitchen table where he paid bills he couldn't afford and learned how a $6 billion company moved.
revenue streams, know them. Cloud infrastructure, enterprise software, government contracts. Margins? 32% on cloud, 18% on enterprise, 41% on government. Victoria's consulting deal with Apex Strategic? $22 million over 3 years. Services never rendered. Money routed through a Delaware shell company to a Cayman account. Good. What's your biggest vulnerability when you walk in? I look like I don't belong. Wrong. Your biggest vulnerability is believing that's true. She was hard on him, relentless. But she also brought pizza on Fridays and helped Lily with homework when Ethan was buried in reports. Lily called her Miss Diana and showed her every new drawing. Raymond handled the legal side, verified every document, built the case against Victoria brick by brick,
Contacted board members quietly, planted seeds.
"We can't go public yet," Raymond told Ethan one night. "We need Victoria to reveal herself. Her arrogance is our greatest weapon." "What if she doesn't?" "She will. Put a man she considers beneath her in front of her at her biggest event, and she won't be able to help herself. People like Victoria don't fear poverty. They fear being ordinary. Challenge her status, and she'll burn everything down trying to protect it." "So I'm bait." "You're a mirror. You're going to show her, and the world, exactly who she is." Ethan didn't love the plan, but he understood it. The gala was scheduled for October 12th. Pinnacle Tech's annual investor showcase. 500 guests. Every major player in tech and finance. Victoria's crown jewel event. Ethan would walk in with nothing but documents and his daughter's drawing. The morning of the gala, he knelt by Lily's bed. "Daddy, you look fancy." "You think so?" "Yeah, like a movie star."
But your shoes are old. He laughed. First real laugh in weeks. "Thanks, baby."
"Are you going to the important meeting?"
"Yeah."
"Are you scared?" "A little." "Mommy said it's okay to be scared. She said scared means you're doing something brave." His throat tightened. "When did she say that?" "When she was sick. She said being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you go anyway." Lily reached under her pillow, pulled out a folded piece of construction paper, purple and yellow crayon, a stick figure man with a cape. "I made this for you, for good luck. That's you with a cape, because you're a superhero." Ethan took it, hands steady this time. "I wrote, 'Good luck, Daddy.' Is luck spelled with a C
or a K? K, baby. You got it right. And I drew a heart. See? It's really big because I love you really big. He pulled her into a hug, held on, smelled her shampoo, strawberry, the cheap kind from the dollar store. I'll keep it right here, he patted his jacket pocket, close to my heart. Promise you'll bring it back? I promise. And promise you'll come home? Always, Lily. Always. He kissed her forehead, stood up. The babysitter arrived, Mrs. Chen from 4B, 70 years old, watched Lily every time Ethan worked nights, never charged him, said she liked the company. You'll be good for Mrs. Chen. I'm always good. That's debatable. Lily giggled. Ethan walked to the door. Daddy? He turned. You're gonna win. I know it. He didn't trust his voice. Just nodded, waved, walked out. The hallway smelled like someone's dinner. Rice and beans. The elevator was broken again. He walked down 6 flights. Raymond's car was waiting outside. Old sedan, clean inside. Ready? Raymond asked. Ethan touched his pocket, felt the crayon drawing against his chest. No, but I'm going anyway. Back in the lobby of the Sterling Grand Hotel, the police were 12 minutes away. Victoria stood triumphant, champagne in hand. Marcus Webb smirked beside her. 200 guests had already decided Ethan was a fraud, a crazy person, a punchline. The live stream hit 60,000 viewers. Ethan was still on the floor, gathering his scattered papers. His hands had stopped shaking. Something had shifted when Victoria tore Lily's drawing. The fear didn't vanish. It changed, hardened into something else, something cold and clear. He picked up the last document, stood up, brushed off his knees. Victoria watched, amused. Still here? Most men know when they've been dismissed. Most men don't have what I have. A death wish? Patience. He said it so quietly that Victoria had to lean forward to hear it. And for the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Not fear, not yet, but uncertainty. The kind that lives in the gut, not the brain. The kind you feel before you understand. She pushed it down, took a long sip of champagne. Patience, she repeated. That's cute. You'll need it. Jail can be slow. Ethan didn't respond. He simply looked past her, toward the back of the lobby, where 2 figures had just stepped out of the shadows. Raymond Cross adjusted his glasses. Diana Reeves cracked her knuckles. And Ethan Mercer, warehouse worker, single father, the man Victoria Ashford had just humiliated in front of the world, looked at his daughter's torn drawing one more time, folded it gently, placed it back over his heart, and waited. Because the thing about patience is this. It only looks like weakness to people who've never had to survive. And Ethan Mercer had been surviving his entire life. Raymond didn't rush. That was the first thing Victoria noticed about him, though she didn't know she noticed it yet. He moved through the crowd the way water moves through rock. Slow, inevitable, unstoppable. Diana walked beside him. Her heels hit marble with purpose. Every step said, I belong here more than you do. Victoria was mid-laugh, turning to Marcus Webb, when Raymond's voice reached her. Good evening, Miss Ashford. She didn't turn immediately. That was a power move. She'd learned it in her 20s. Never turn when a nobody speaks. Make them wait. Make them feel the gap between your world and theirs. Miss Ashford. She turned. Slow. Bored. Ready to dismiss whoever this was with a single look. Raymond stood 8 feet away, briefcase in one hand, the other hand in his coat pocket, glasses catching light from the chandelier.
He didn't smile, didn't extend his hand, just stood there, taking up space, the way old oak trees take up space. Quietly, permanently. "And you are?" "Raymond Cross, attorney at law." Victoria's eyes swept him. Old, black, coat wasn't new. She categorized him in half a second and filed him under irrelevant. "Attorney for whom?" "For the man you just humiliated." Victoria laughed, short, dismissive. "The warehouse worker has a lawyer? That's commitment to a bit. That warehouse worker is my client, and those papers on your floor are legally binding documents from a sealed trust, executed by Howard Belmont's estate." The name landed differently this time. Victoria's champagne glass paused at her lips. She lowered it. "Howard Belmont has been dead for 6 months. His estate was settled. The shares were dissolved into the board pool." "That's what you were told." "That's what happened." "That's what you assumed happened, because you never saw the will." Victoria's smile thinned. Not gone, not yet, but thinner. "I was Howard's CEO. I knew everything about his affairs." "You knew what he wanted you to know." Raymond set his briefcase on the nearest table, clicked it open. Howard Belmont had a daughter. Howard had no children. Howard had a daughter named Sarah. Sarah Belmont. She left the family at 22, changed her name, married a mechanic from Queens, lived modestly, died of cancer 2 years ago. Victoria's glass lowered another inch. Her knuckles whitened around the stem. "That's not possible. I've been with this company for 12 years. Howard never told you. There's a difference between something not existing and something being hidden from you." The lobby had gone quiet. Not silent. People still whispered, still shuffled, but the energy had changed. The crowd could feel it, the way animals feel a storm coming. Something in the air pressure. Something wrong. Marcus Webb stepped forward. "Victoria, you want me to handle this?" "I'm fine, Marcus." "Because this is clearly some kind of con. Showing up with an actor in a cheap suit, a fake lawyer, and forged documents." "My bar number is 847291. Raymond didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. "Licensed in New York since 1989. Feel free to verify. I'll wait." Marcus pulled out his phone. Typed. His face did something complicated. Confidence draining out of it like color from a sunset. He put the phone down. "He's real." "Of course I'm real." Raymond pulled the first document from his briefcase. "This is the last will and testament of Howard James Belmont, sealed by his personal attorneys at Morrison and Partners, executed 30 days ago upon the expiration of a 6-month waiting period Howard himself stipulated." He laid it on the table. "This is the irrevocable trust establishing Sarah Belmont Mercer as the primary beneficiary of 74% of Pinnacle Tech Holdings." Second document, laid beside the first. "This is the transfer of trust upon Sarah's death to Ethan James Mercer as trustee and Lily Catherine Mercer as beneficiary." Third document. "And this is the verification letter from the Surrogates Court of New York, confirming the trust's validity as of last Tuesday." Fourth document. Victoria stared at the papers. She didn't touch them. Touching them would make them real. "This is a fraud," she said, but the champagne glass trembled in her hand. "Pick one up. Anyone. Look at the seals. Look at the signatures. Look at the notarization. Then tell me it's a fraud." Victoria didn't move. Diana Reeves spoke for the first time. "She's not going to look, because she already knows." Victoria's head snapped toward Diana. "Who the hell are you?" "Diana Reeves, corporate strategist, and the woman who spent 8 months teaching your majority shareholder everything he needs to know to replace you. Replace me? Victoria's laugh came back, but it was hollow now, a reflex without conviction. Nobody replaces me. I built this company. Howard Belmont built this company, Ethan said. Everyone turned. He'd been standing there the whole time. Papers gathered, folder reassembled, torn drawings safe in his pocket. Quiet. Waiting. Just like Raymond told him. Howard built it, Ethan repeated. My wife inherited it. And she left it to me and our daughter. Your wife, Victoria's voice dripped acid. A woman nobody's ever heard of, married to a man who loads boxes for a living. She loaded boxes too, when we first started dating. Night shift at a fulfillment center in Jersey City. She never told me who her father was. She just wanted to be Sarah. How convenient that she's dead and can't confirm any of this. The crowd sucked in a collective breath. Even Marcus Webb flinched. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes went very still. The kind of still that comes before an earthquake. Say that again. Victoria sensed it, the shift. She'd pushed something she shouldn't have pushed. But Victoria Ashford had never backed down in her life, and she wasn't about to start in front of 300 people and 60,000 live stream viewers. I said it's convenient. Dead wife, secret daughter, a trust nobody knew about? This has con written all over it. My wife died in a hospital bed in Queens. Ethan's voice was low. Each word landed like a stone dropped into still water. I held her hand for 16 hours. Our daughter was in the hallway because Sarah didn't want Lily to see her at the end. The last thing Sarah said to me was, "Protect our girl." That's not a con. That's a promise. And I'm standing here because I keep my promises. The lobby was dead silent now. Even the whispers had stopped. Phones were still recording. The live stream had passed 100,000 viewers. Victoria turned to Raymond. Even if, and I'm not conceding anything, even if these documents are real, ownership doesn't mean authority. The board controls operations. The board appointed me. This man has no power here. Raymond almost smiled. Almost. Ms. Ashford, I've been practicing corporate law for 35 years. Shall I explain how irrevocable trusts work, or would you prefer to embarrass yourself further? Watch your tone. The trust grants Ethan Mercer full voting rights over 74% of Pinnacle Tech shares. That gives him authority over any board decision, hiring, firing, mergers, acquisitions, and yes, the appointment or removal of the chief executive officer. The words hung in the air like smoke. He can fire you, Victoria. Diana said it plainly. No drama, just fact. Tonight, right now, in front of everyone. Victoria's champagne glass finally shook hard enough to spill. A drop of gold liquid hit the marble floor. She set the glass down on the registration table. Her hand was steady again, but it took visible effort. This is ridiculous. I'm calling the board. They've already been called. Raymond reached into his briefcase again. I contacted all 12 members this afternoon. Documents were sent, verified, and acknowledged by 9 of 12. The other 3 are en route to this hotel as we speak. Victoria's face changed. Not a collapse. Victoria Ashford didn't collapse. But the architecture of her confidence shifted. Cracks appeared in the foundation. Hairline fractures that only someone watching closely would notice. She noticed Ethan watching closely. Stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like you've won. I haven't won anything. I just want what belongs to my daughter. Your daughter. Victoria laughed, but it sounded like glass breaking. Your daughter is 7. She draws pictures with crayons. She doesn't own a tech empire. She owns 74% of one. The crayons are just a bonus. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. Not at Ethan. With him. Victoria heard it. Her jaw tightened. Marcus, where are the police? Marcus had his phone to his ear. His face was the color of old milk. Victoria, maybe we should... Where are the police, Marcus? 8 minutes out, but listen to me. If these documents are real, if this guy actually owns... He owns nothing.
Victoria. Marcus grabbed her arm, pulled her close, whispered. But in a silent lobby, whispers carry. If he owns 74%, and you just threw his papers on the floor and tore up his kid's drawing on a live stream with 100,000 viewers, you are finished. Do you understand? We need to stop. Right now. Victoria pulled her arm free. Don't touch me. And don't tell me what to do. I made you, Marcus. I made all of you. She turned back to Ethan. Her eyes were different now. Not dismissive. Calculating. Dangerous. Fine. You want to play? Let's play. She pulled out her phone. Richard, it's Victoria. Emergency board call. Now. Yes, right now. I don't care if he's at dinner. Pull him out. She hung up. Looked at Raymond. Your documents will be reviewed by our legal team. If they're fraudulent, and they are, I will personally ensure your client goes to prison for attempted fraud. And if they're genuine? They're not. But if they are? Victoria didn't answer. The elevator chimed. Doors opened. Dr. Henry Chen stepped out. 58. Board member. One of the most respected names in tech. He wore a tuxedo, but it was rumpled. He'd clearly dressed in a hurry. He looked around the lobby, saw the scattered energy, the phones, the tension. His eyes found Ethan. Mr. Mercer? Victoria froze. Henry walked straight to Ethan, extended his hand. I'm Dr. Henry Chen. I reviewed the trust documents 2 hours ago. And? Victoria's voice was sharp enough to cut skin. Henry looked at her, then at the crumpled papers, then at the champagne stain on the marble, then back at Victoria. They're authentic, Victoria. Morrison and Partners confirmed. The surrogates court confirmed. I called Howard's personal attorney in Connecticut. He confirmed. Ethan Mercer is the legal trustee and controlling shareholder of Pinnacle Tech Holdings. The lobby didn't gasp. It was beyond gasps now. The silence was so complete that Ethan could hear the ice shifting in abandoned cocktail glasses. Victoria's face was porcelain, perfect, and empty. That's one board member's opinion. The elevator chimed again. Margaret Okafor stepped out. 52. COO. Board member. She held a tablet in one hand and reading glasses in the other. Behind her, Gerald Whitman. 64. Board treasurer. Margaret didn't pause, didn't scan the room, walked directly to Victoria. I've verified the documents independently. Gerald has as well. Gerald nodded. He looked like a man who'd aged 5 years in 2 hours. The trust is real. The transfer is real. Mr. Mercer holds 74% of all voting shares. Margaret's voice carried the weight of someone delivering a verdict. Victoria, you were never the owner of this company. You were an employee. And right now, you're an employee who just assaulted the owner's personal property and verbally abused him in front of hundreds of witnesses. Victoria's lip twitched. Once. The smallest tell. The crack that revealed the entire structure was about to come down. She turned to Ethan, looked at him, really looked at him for the first time all evening. Saw the cheap suit, the calloused hands, the wet eyes that hadn't blinked.
the pocket where a torn crayon drawing sat against his heart. "This isn't over," she whispered. "No," Ethan agreed. "It's not." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. A text from Mrs. Chen in apartment 4B. "Lily wants to know if you used the drawing." He typed back with one thumb. "Tell her I'm holding it right now." 3 dots appeared. Then a photo. Lily in her pajamas, holding up a new drawing. This one showed 2 stick figures, a tall one and the small one, holding hands. Underneath, in crooked purple crayon, "Daddy and Lily versus the world." Ethan stared at it. In the middle of a hotel lobby, surrounded by billionaires and cameras and a woman who wanted to destroy him, he stared at his daughter's drawing and almost smiled. Almost. Because the police were 3 minutes away. Victoria was calling every lawyer she knew. The live stream had hit 150,000 viewers, and somewhere in Raymond's briefcase sat a folder that would end Victoria Ashford's career, her freedom, and everything she'd built on stolen money. But that was coming. Right now, in this second, Ethan Mercer was a father looking at his daughter's art. And that was enough. Raymond appeared at his shoulder. Quiet. Steady. "Ethan, the police are almost here." "I know. She called them for you. They're going to find her instead." Ethan put his phone away, touched his pocket, felt the torn drawing. "Raymond?" "Yes?" "When this is over, I need to buy some tape." Raymond looked at him, confused. "For Lily's drawing. I promised I'd bring it back." Raymond Cross had practiced law for 35 years. He'd stood in courtrooms and boardrooms and rooms where the stakes were life and death. He'd seen men crumble under less pressure than what Ethan Mercer had endured tonight. He looked at this warehouse worker from Queens, standing in a hotel lobby that cost more per night than his monthly rent, holding together with nothing but a dead wife's promise and a daughter's crayon heart. "We'll find tape," Raymond said. "Good." The lobby doors opened. Blue and red lights spilled across the marble floor. 2 officers stepped inside. The crowd parted. Victoria Ashford straightened her spine, smoothed her gown, and prepared to have Ethan Mercer removed from her life forever. She had no idea she was about to be removed from his. The officers moved through the crowd like they'd done this 100 times. The taller one, Sergeant Rivera, 46, walked with the steady calm of a man who'd spent 2 decades sorting liars from victims in Manhattan hotel lobbies. His partner, Officer Davis, 31, hung back 2 steps, hand near his radio, scanning the room. Rivera stopped in the center of the lobby, looked around. 200 people staring at him. Phones everywhere. He could feel the live stream on him like heat from a spotlight. "Who called about a trespasser?" Victoria stepped forward. Smooth, controlled. She'd rebuilt her composure in the 90 seconds since the officers walked in. Spine straight, smile polished. Every inch the billionaire CEO. "I did, Sergeant. Victoria Ashford, CEO of Pinnacle Tech Holdings. We're hosting our annual investor gala, and this man," she pointed at Ethan without looking at him, "forced his way in, presented forged documents, and has been disrupting our event." Rivera looked at Ethan. Cheap suit, red eyes, papers clutched to his chest. Then he looked at the crowd, the phones, the scattered energy of a room that had witnessed something ugly. "Sir, your name?" "Ethan Mercer." "And you're here because—" "Because I own this company." Rivera's expression didn't change. He'd heard stranger things on a Tuesday. "You have identification?" "Yes, sir." Ethan reached slowly into his jacket, pulled out his wallet, handed over his license. Rivera examined it, handed it to Davis. "Run it." Already running the other one, too, Davis said, meaning Victoria's. Routine. But Victoria's smile flickered. Sergeant, this is a waste of time. The man is delusional or running a scam. Either way, he needs to be removed. Ma'am, we'll sort it out. That's what we're here for. Rivera turned back to Ethan. You said you own the company. What makes you say that? Raymond stepped forward. Sergeant, I'm Raymond Cross, Mr. Mercer's attorney. I have the relevant documents here if you'd like to review them. Rivera took the folder.
He wasn't a corporate lawyer, but he'd seen enough legal documents to know the difference between something printed at a copy shop and something stamped by a court. He flipped through, read slowly. His eyebrows moved twice, both times upward. He looked at Ethan, then at Victoria, then at the 3 board members standing behind Ethan like a wall. Ma'am, these documents appear to be court certified. They're forgeries. They have notarization stamps from the New York Surrogates Court. Then the court was fooled. Rivera closed the folder. He'd been a cop long enough to know when someone was lying, and he'd been a cop long enough to know that the truth usually stood quieter than the lie. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stay while we verify this. Stay? Victoria's voice rose half an octave. I'm not the one trespassing. He is. Nobody's being charged with anything yet. I just need everyone to stay put. Do you know who I am? Rivera looked at her, steady, unimpressed. Yes, ma'am, you told me. CEO of Pinnacle Tech. And this gentleman says he owns it. Somebody's wrong, and I'd like to figure out who before I put anyone in handcuffs. Victoria's jaw clenched. She turned to Marcus. Call Jeffrey, now. Marcus already had his phone out. Jeffrey Morrison, Victoria's personal attorney. $500 an hour. The kind of lawyer who made problems disappear before breakfast. But Raymond wasn't done. Sergeant, while you're verifying ownership, there's something else you should be aware of. Victoria's head snapped toward him. Don't. Raymond ignored her. My firm has been conducting a financial investigation into Pinnacle Tech Holdings for the past 8 months. We've uncovered evidence of significant financial crimes committed by Ms. Ashford. That is slander. Victoria's voice went cold. Ice cold. The kind of cold that freezes people in place. And you will hear from my lawyers within the hour. I welcome it, Raymond said. He pulled a second folder from his briefcase. This one was thicker. Red tab on the edge. Sergeant, I'm not asking you to act on this. I'm informing you because the FBI has been notified and federal agents are en route. The word FBI moved through the crowd like a shockwave. Whispers erupted. The live stream, now at 180,000 viewers, exploded with comments. Victoria laughed. It was the best performance of her life, and it was almost convincing. The FBI? Of course. What's next? The CIA? The Secret Service? $22 million, Victoria. Diana Reeves spoke from behind Raymond. Clear, precise, like a surgeon naming the disease. Routed through Apex Strategic Consulting, a company that has no employees, no office, and no clients. Just a mailbox in Delaware and a bank account in the Cayman Islands. Victoria turned on her. You have no right to... The account was opened 4 days after Howard Belmont died. Diana held up her phone, screen facing out. 12 payments over 18 months, all approved by you. All for services that were never performed. Shall I keep going? This is a setup, a coordinated attack. It's an audit. Raymond's voice was the calmest thing in the room. Howard Belmont started it before he died. He suspected you were stealing. He was building a case. He had an FBI meeting scheduled for the week after his death.
Victoria went still. Completely still. Not the controlled stillness of confidence. The frozen stillness of a woman hearing something she thought was buried forever. That's not true. Howard kept notes, handwritten, in a journal he gave to his estate attorneys with instructions to pass it to me upon the execution of his will. Raymond reached into the folder, pulled out a photocopy. This is his handwriting, authenticated by 3 independent experts. He held it up, not for Victoria, for the room. Victoria stealing. Shell companies. At least $20 million. Protect the company. Protect Sarah's inheritance. Contact FBI. Victoria stared at the paper. Her face did something Ethan had never seen on a powerful person before. It emptied. Not anger, not fear. Just empty. Like someone had pulled the plug on everything that kept her running. Then it came back. All of it. Fury. Howard was senile. Everyone knew it. His last year he was confused, paranoid. Those notes mean nothing. His doctors disagree. Raymond produced another document. Full cognitive evaluation, 6 weeks before his death. Normal function, clear mind, sound judgment. You had this planned. Victoria looked at Ethan. Really looked at him. Not at his suit or his shoes or his calloused hands. At him. You walked in here knowing exactly what would happen. I walked in here hoping you'd read a piece of paper. Ethan's voice was quiet. You chose to throw it on the floor. You set me up. I showed up. Everything that happened after that was you. The live stream hit 200,000. News desks were picking it up. Reporters were calling the hotel. 2 news vans were already outside. Victoria turned to Marcus Webb, the man who'd stood beside her for 7 years, her right hand, her fixer. Marcus, tell them this is insane. Marcus wouldn't look at her. Marcus! He took a step back. Marcus! Victoria. His voice was barely audible. The Apex account. You told me it was a legitimate consulting arrangement. It was. Was it? Victoria stared at him. The silence between them said more than any confession. Marcus took another step back, then another. Then he turned and walked toward the elevator. Didn't run, didn't hurry. Just walked away with the steady pace of a man abandoning a sinking ship he'd known was going down for months. Victoria watched him go. Something cracked in her expression. Not remorse, not guilt. Loss. The specific loss of realizing that loyalty bought with money evaporates the second the money is in question. Anyone else? She said to the room. Her voice shook. She pretended it didn't. Anyone else want to abandon ship? Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed loud. Sergeant Rivera's radio crackled. He listened. His face shifted. Copy that. He looked at Victoria. Something in his eyes had changed. Ma'am, I've just been informed that federal agents from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit are in the building. Victoria's hand went to the table beside her, steadied herself. This is a railroad job. Ma'am, I want my attorney. I'm not saying another word without Jeffrey Morrison present. That's your right. The elevator doors opened. 3 people stepped out. 2 men, 1 woman. Dark suits, federal posture. The woman led. Agent Rachel Torres, 43, the kind of face that gave nothing away. She walked straight to Rivera, badge out. Brief conversation. Rivera nodded, stepped aside. Torres approached Victoria. Ms. Ashford, I'm Special Agent Rachel Torres, FBI Financial Crimes. We need to speak with you regarding financial irregularities at Pinnacle Tech Holdings.
I have nothing to say.
That's your right, but I should inform you that a federal warrant was signed this afternoon. We'll be executing a search of your office, home, and financial records beginning tomorrow morning. Victoria's breathing changed, faster, shorter. The kind of breathing that happens when the body understands what the mind refuses to accept.
This is political. Someone is targeting me because I'm a successful woman who...
Ma'am, this is financial. $22 million was moved through shell companies over 18 months. The paper trail leads to accounts in your name. If you have an explanation, we'd like to hear it. If not, we'd like you to come with us voluntarily for questioning.
Voluntarily.
For now, those two words hit harder than anything else said all night. For now. The implicit threat, the ticking clock, the "we're being polite, but we don't have to be," that separated a conversation from an arrest. Victoria looked around the lobby one last time. 200 people. Board members who wouldn't meet her eyes. Staff who'd looked away. A tech blogger with a phone that had shown the world exactly who she was. And Ethan Mercer, standing there, quiet, not gloating, not smiling, just standing. She hated that most. The absence of victory in his eyes. If he'd been smug, she could have hated him purely. But he looked tired, sad even, like none of this was what he wanted. "You think you've won," she said to him. "I think my daughter's drawing is torn in half in my pocket. I don't think anyone won tonight." Victoria blinked. For 1/2 second, something human flickered across her face. Then it was gone.
Agent Torres, I'll come voluntarily.
But I want it on record that I deny all allegations. Noted. Torres gestured toward the door. Victoria straightened her gown, lifted her chin, walked. Every step precise. Every step a performance. Even now, even walking toward the end of everything, she performed. She passed Ethan, stopped.
"You'll fail,"
she whispered.
"You don't know the first thing about running a company. In 6 months, you'll drive it into the ground, and everyone will know that Howard Belmont's legacy died with a warehouse worker who couldn't handle it." Ethan looked at her. No anger, no fear. Just the calm that comes from having already survived the worst thing that can happen to a person. "Maybe, but I'll do it honestly. And my daughter will be proud of how I did it." Victoria's lip trembled. Once. She killed it. Walked on. The crowd parted. She moved through them like a ghost through walls. Torres and the 2 agents flanked her, not touching her, not yet, but close. Close enough to make the point. The lobby doors opened. Camera flashes erupted outside. Victoria Ashford walked into a wall of white light and shouted questions, and the doors closed behind her, and she was gone. The lobby exhaled. 200 people suddenly remembered how to breathe, how to move, how to whisper. The energy shifted. Tension drained out through the floor and was replaced by something electric and stunned. Dr. Henry Chen was the first to approach Ethan. He extended his hand again. This time, Ethan took it. "Mr. Mercer, on behalf of the board, I want to apologize for what you experienced tonight." "You didn't do anything wrong, Dr. Chen." "I didn't do anything at all. That might be worse." Margaret Okafor joined them. Her tablet was clutched to her chest, but her eyes were soft. "Mr. Mercer, we need to discuss next steps. The company will need immediate leadership. The board can handle day-to-day operations, but as majority shareholder, you'll need to be involved in key decisions." "Can it wait until tomorrow?" Margaret paused.
She was a woman who never waited on anything. But she looked at Ethan, at his red eyes, his wrinkled suit, the way his hand kept drifting to the pocket where the drawing was. And she nodded. Tomorrow. Thank you. Raymond appeared at his side, Diana on the other. The three of them stood together in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by hundreds of people who now knew exactly who Ethan Mercer was. We should go, Raymond said quietly. The press will be inside within minutes. Yeah. They walked toward the side exit, a service hallway, less glamorous. No red carpet, but no cameras either. Jessica Chen, Victoria's assistant, the young woman who'd been watching from the registration desk all night, stepped into their path. Her mascara was ruined. She'd been crying. Mr. Mercer? Ethan stopped. Yes? I'm Jessica. I was Miss Ashford's executive assistant. She clutched a folder to her chest. I've been keeping records, emails, memos, things I knew were wrong but was too scared to report. She held out the folder. Her hands shook. I should have said something sooner. I should have helped you when you first walked in. I knew something was off about the Apex contracts. I knew she was hiding things. But I was afraid. She would have destroyed me. Ethan took the folder, looked at it, then looked at Jessica. You're saying something now. That counts. Jessica's composure broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, nodded, couldn't speak. Diana put a hand on Jessica's shoulder. We'll need to talk tomorrow. Bring everything you have. Jessica nodded again, stepped aside. They kept walking. Through the service hallway, past kitchen staff who stared, past a busboy who held the door open and whispered, Good luck, man. Past all of it. The car was waiting outside, the same sedan. Raymond's driver had pulled it around back. No press here, no cameras. Just a quiet street and a cold night. Ethan stopped before giving in, looked up at the hotel. 40 stories of glass and steel and wealth. Somewhere inside, 500 people were sitting down to a dinner that cost more than his annual salary. Somewhere out there, Victoria Ashford was sitting in the back of a federal vehicle, learning what it felt like to lose everything. Ethan, Raymond's voice, gentle. Car's waiting. 1 second. He pulled out his phone, called Mrs. Chen. Hello? Hi, Mrs. Chen. Is Lily still awake? She's trying very hard to stay awake. Keeps asking about you. Put her on? Rustling. Then that voice. That small, perfect voice that made every terrible thing about this night shrink down to nothing. Daddy! Hey, baby. Did you win? He leaned against the car, closed his eyes, felt the cold air on his face and the torn drawing against his chest. Yeah, Lily, we won. Did the drawing help? More than you'll ever know. I told you it had magic. The heart has magic in it. He pressed his hand against his pocket, felt the paper, the tear running through the crayon heart. Yeah, baby, it does. Are you coming home now? Right now. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Can we have ice cream? Mrs. Chen said no because it's bedtime. But if you say yes, she has to listen because you're the daddy. Ethan laughed. The real kind. The kind that shakes your chest and makes your eyes sting for a completely different reason. We'll see. That means yes. That means we'll see. Go brush your teeth. I'll be home soon. Okay. Daddy? Yeah? I love you really big. I love you really big too, Lily. He hung up, stood there for a moment, phone in one hand, the other hand over his heart. Raymond and Diana waited, They didn't rush him. They'd learned that about Ethan over the past 8 months. He moved at his own speed, and the things that mattered most to him had nothing to do with money or power or companies. He got in the car. Raymond got in beside him. Diana took the front. The driver pulled away from the hotel. The city slid past, lights and noise and life. Ethan reached into his pocket, pulled out the 2 halves of Lily's drawing, held them together. The tear went right through the big purple heart she'd drawn, right through the words, "Good luck, Daddy." He pressed the pieces together carefully, aligned the edges, held them until they almost looked whole. "Raymond." "Yes?" "Tomorrow, after the board meeting, after the press, after all of it." "What?" "I need to stop at a store, buy some tape. Purple tape if they make it." Raymond looked at the torn drawing in Ethan's hands, at the crayon heart split in 2, at the 7-year-old's handwriting that said everything about what mattered and what didn't. "I'm sure they make it," Raymond said. "Good." The car drove through Manhattan, past the towers and the wealth and the power, past all of it, headed to Queens, headed home, where a 7-year-old girl was brushing her teeth and negotiating ice cream rights and waiting for her father to walk through the door. Ethan leaned his head against the window, watched the city blur. He thought about Victoria, about the way she'd looked at him when she first saw him, that half-second sweep of her eyes that dismissed everything he was, about the way she'd torn Lily's drawing like it was garbage, about the way she'd said "convenient" about Sarah's death. He waited for the anger, searched for it. It wasn't there. Just a heavy, aching tiredness. And underneath it, something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Something that felt like the ground being solid under his feet again. Something that felt like a promise kept. The car crossed the bridge into Queens. The buildings got shorter. The streets got quieter. Home got closer. Ethan held the 2 halves of the drawing together and didn't let go. Lily was asleep on the couch when he walked in. Mrs. Chen had covered her with the old blue blanket, the one with the fraying edges that Lily refused to throw away because Mommy bought it. SpongeBob was still playing on the television, volume low. A half-eaten bowl of cereal sat on the coffee table, next to a new drawing. Wet paint this time, not crayon. 2 stick figures under a yellow sun. "Me and Daddy," in big, wobbly letters. Mrs. Chen stood up from the kitchen chair. She looked at Ethan's face and knew. That bad? That complicated. She waited up until 9:30, fought hard, lost around 9:32. Ethan knelt beside the couch. Lily's mouth was open. One sock on, one sock off. She'd fallen asleep holding a purple marker, and there was a smudge on her cheek. He touched her hair, gentle, the way you touch something you're terrified of losing. "Ethan," Mrs. Chen had her coat on. "Whatever happened tonight, that child thinks you're a superhero. Don't forget that when the world gets loud tomorrow." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. You owe me ice cream." She negotiated hard. She left. The door clicked shut. Ethan sat on the floor next to the couch and listened to his daughter breathe. His phone had 47 missed calls. He turned it off. He pulled the 2 halves of Lily's drawing from his pocket, went to the kitchen, found tape in the junk drawer, the regular clear kind. He aligned the pieces carefully on the counter. The tear ran through the heart, through the D in Daddy, through the cape on the stick figure superhero. He taped it slowly, front and back. Pressed the edges flat. It wasn't perfect. You could see the tear. The heart was crooked now, slightly off-center from where the paper had stretched. But it held together. He put it on the fridge, right next to the new painting. Two drawings side by side. One perfect, one broken and repaired. Somehow the broken one meant more. He carried Lily to bed. She stirred. "Daddy?" "I'm here." "Did you come home?" "I'm home, baby."
Ice cream? Tomorrow, I promise.
"That's what you said last time." "This time, I mean it." She was asleep again before he pulled the covers up. He sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, watching her, wondering what she'd think when she found out. When the world told her that her father owned a company worth billions, that her mother was secretly an heiress, that everything about their small, quiet life had been built on a secret. He'd tell her himself, before the news did, before school friends repeated what their parents said at dinner, before the internet turned their family into a story. But not tonight. Tonight, she was just Lily, and he was just Daddy. He slept on the couch, didn't bother changing, woke at 5 like always, body trained by years of warehouse shifts. For 3 seconds, the apartment was normal. Coffee maker, morning light, Lily's backpack by the door. Then his phone powered on, and the world rushed in. 212 missed calls. The voicemail was full. Texts from numbers he didn't recognize. Raymond had sent 14 messages, each more urgent than the last. Diana had sent one. "Call me before you turn on the TV." He turned on the TV. His face filled the screen. The lobby footage. Victoria snatching his folder. Papers flying. The drawing being torn. Him on his knees. The anchor was saying his name like they'd been saying it all night. Like it belonged to everyone now. Ethan Mercer, a warehouse supervisor from Queens and single father, was revealed last night as the majority owner of Pinnacle Tech Holdings, a $6.2 billion technology company. He changed the channel. Same story. Changed again. Same. Every network, every anchor, every angle. He turned it off. "Daddy, why are you on TV?" Lily stood in the hallway, pajamas, messy hair, holding the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 3. Ethan's chest tightened. Not yet. He wasn't ready. But she was standing right there, and she was asking, and he'd promised Sarah he'd never lie to her. "Come sit with me, Lil." She climbed onto the couch, tucked herself under his arm, still warm from sleep. "You know how Mommy used to talk about Grandpa Howard? The one I never met?" "Yeah, the one you never met. Well, Grandpa Howard had a big company, a really big one. And when he died, he left it to Mommy. And when Mommy died, she left it to us." Lily looked up at him, processing. 7 years old, doing math that shouldn't belong in a 7-year-old's head. "So we own a company?" "We do." "Is it a good company?" "It's going to be." "Do I have to go to work?" Ethan laughed. The sound surprised him. "No, baby, you have to go to school." Ugh. "But some things are going to change. People might recognize us. Reporters might come around. Kids at school might say things." "What kind of things?" "All kinds. Some nice, some not." Lily thought about this. Serious face. The same face she made when deciding between chocolate and vanilla. "If they're mean, can I tell them my daddy beat the mean lady on TV?" "I didn't beat anyone, Lily. I just told the truth." "That's what superheroes do." He pulled her closer, kissed the top of her head. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "My drawing is on the fridge, the one I gave you, but it's taped." "Yeah, it got torn." "The mean lady tore it?" He hesitated. "Yes." Lily slid off the couch, walked to the fridge, stood on her tiptoes, looked at it, ran her finger along the tape line. "It's okay," she said. "What?" "It's okay that it's torn. You can still see the heart, and you taped it, so it means you fixed it. That's what daddies do." She turned around. "They fix things." Ethan sat on the couch in his wrinkled funeral suit, in a Queens apartment that cost $1,800 a month, and his 7-year-old daughter, standing on tiptoes in SpongeBob pajamas, taught him something no boardroom ever could. The broken things still work. You just have to hold them together. The press conference was at 2 o'clock. Raymond picked him up at noon. Same sedan. Diana was already in the front seat with 2 coffees and a garment bag. "We got you a suit." "I have a suit." "Ethan, you've been wearing that suit for 14 hours. It's been on a marble floor and a couch. You need a new suit." "I'm wearing this one." Diana and Raymond exchanged a look. "He's wearing this one," Raymond said. "Fine. At least let me steam it." "You can steam it." They drove to Manhattan. The building was surrounded. Reporters, camera crews, satellite vans. Police had set up barricades. Ethan looked through the window and felt his stomach drop. "How many?" "Every major outlet, plus about 50 international crews. You're the #1 story worldwide." "I load trucks." "You loaded trucks. Past tense." Diana handed him a briefing folder. "Here's what you need to know for today. The board is meeting at 1. You'll sit at the head of the table. Patricia Morrison resigned as chairperson this morning." "Why?" "Guilt. She knew about Victoria's spending, but didn't push hard enough. She's cooperating with the FBI." "Is she going to jail?" "Probably not, but her career is over." The car pulled into the underground garage. Security met them. Real security this time. People who worked for Ethan, though that concept still felt like a foreign language in his mouth. They rode the elevator to the 47th floor. The doors opened, and Ethan stepped into a hallway lined with people. Employees, hundreds of them, standing on both sides. Quiet at first, then someone started clapping. Then everyone. Ethan walked through it, nodded, tried to smile. A woman from accounting reached out and squeezed his hand. A young engineer gave him a thumbs up. An older man in maintenance, 60-something, gray beard, held up a hand-drawn sign. "Welcome home, boss." Ethan stopped in front of him. Read the sign. "What's your name?" "Frank. Frank DeLuca. Been here 31 years. Started when Howard was still running things from a garage." "You knew Howard?" "Knew him well. Good man. Would have been proud of what you did last night." "I didn't do much." "You stood up. In this building, that's been rare lately." Frank lowered the sign. "Don't let them change you, son. The suits upstairs have a way of making good people forget who they are." Ethan shook his hand. "I'll remember that, Frank." The boardroom was enormous. Long table, 12 chairs. Ethan had seen it in photos Diana showed him during training. But photos didn't capture the weight of the room, the history, the decisions made here, lives affected, fortunes built and destroyed. His chair was at the head. He sat down. The leather creaked. His feet touched the floor. That was good. He'd worried, absurdly, that it would be too high, that his feet would dangle like a kid's. Board members filed in. Dr. Henry Chen sat first, then Margaret Okafor, then the others, one by one. Gerald Whitman's seat was empty. He'd resigned overnight. 2 others were gone too. Victoria's allies, fleeing before the investigation reached them. 9 board members remained. They looked at Ethan. He looked at them. "I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm doing," he said. The room tensed. That wasn't in any script Diana had written. 8 months ago, I was loading trucks on a night shift. I'd come home at 6 in the morning and make my daughter lunch for school. That was my life. It was small, and it was hard, and it was mine. He paused. Now I'm sitting in this chair, and I know most of you are thinking the same thing Victoria thought last night, that I don't belong here, that a warehouse worker can't run a $6 billion company. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. You might be right. I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to Stanford. I've never read a quarterly earnings report that I didn't have to Google half the words in. He looked at each of them. But I know what it's like to work 60 hours a week and still not make rent. I know what it's like to explain to a 7-year-old why we can't fix the heat this month. I know what it's like to be looked at the way Victoria looked at me last night. Like I'm less than. Like I don't count. He leaned forward. 53% of the people who work in this building make under $60,000 a year. They take the subway. They worry about groceries. They're a lot more like me than like Victoria. And for 3 years, the person running their company was stealing from them. Margaret Okafor's pen stopped moving. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to learn. Fast. Diana Reeves will serve as interim COO. Raymond Cross will oversee the legal transition. I'll make mistakes. When I do, I expect you to tell me. Not politely. Directly. I'm not Victoria. I don't need people who agree with me. I need people who will tell me when I'm wrong. He sat back. But I will make one thing clear. This company belongs to my daughter. Everything I do here, every decision, is for her future. If that's not enough for you, the door is right there. Nobody moved toward the door. Henry Chen spoke first. Mr. Mercer, I've sat on this board for 11 years. That's the most honest thing anyone has said at this table. Margaret nodded. What do you need from us? A full audit. Every contract, every payment, every deal Victoria touched. I want to know where every dollar went. That will take months. Then we start today. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. Ethan listened more than he spoke. Asked questions that Diana had prepped him for, and questions she hadn't. Some were sharp, some were basic. He didn't pretend to know things he didn't. When it was over, Margaret stopped him at the door. Mr. Mercer. Ethan? Ethan, your wife. Sarah. I never met her, but Howard talked about her sometimes, late at night, after difficult board meetings. He'd say, my Sarah would have done it differently. I never understood what he meant. What do you think he meant now? Margaret looked at the boardroom, at the empty chairs, at the weight of everything that had gone wrong. I think he meant she would have cared about the people, not just the numbers. I think that's what you're going to do, too. I'm going to try. That's enough. For now. The press conference was a blur. 50 journalists, cameras, microphones. Ethan stood at the podium. The same wrinkled suit. No teleprompter. No speechwriter. Just a man with a piece of paper he'd written on the car ride over. My name is Ethan Mercer. I'm a single father from Queens. Yesterday, I walked into a hotel and was told I didn't belong. The woman who ran my family's company tore up my daughter's drawing and threw my documents on the floor. He held up the taped drawing. Lily's purple heart. The tear visible through the clear tape. My daughter made this. She's 7. She put a heart on it because she loves me. A woman who runs a $6 billion company thought this was garbage. He said it on the podium. It's not garbage. It's the most valuable thing I own. More valuable than this company. More valuable than any stock certificate or trust document. Because a child made it with love, and love is the one thing you can't steal, forge, or buy. He looked at the cameras. Victoria Ashford will face justice. The FBI is doing its work. This company will recover. But I want to say something to every parent out there working 2 jobs, every single dad eating dinner over the sink, every person who's been looked at the way I was looked at last night. His voice was steady, quiet, the way Ethan always was when he meant something completely. You're not less. You're not invisible, and your kid's crayon drawing is worth more than every champagne glass in every hotel in Manhattan. He stepped back. The room erupted, questions shouted, cameras flashing. Raymond took the microphone. Mr. Mercer won't be taking questions. He has to pick up his daughter from school. That line would make every headline by evening. In the car, headed to PS 142 in Queens, Ethan loosened his tie, leaned back, closed his eyes. You did good, Diana said from the front seat. I talked too much. You talked exactly enough. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Mr. Mercer, this is Frank DeLuca from maintenance. Just wanted to say, Howard would be proud. Don't let the suits change you. P.S. Your daughter's drawing is already framed in the employee break room. Someone printed the photo from the press conference. Hope that's okay. Ethan typed back. It's okay, Frank. Tell them I said thank you. The car pulled up to PS 142, 3:15. Bell hadn't rung yet. Ethan got out, stood at the fence with the other parents. Some recognized him, stared, whispered. He ignored it. The bell rang. Kids poured out, backpacks bouncing, shoes untied, controlled chaos. Lily exploded through the door, saw him, sprinted. Daddy! She hit him at full speed, arms around his waist, face buried in his stomach. Hey, baby. You came. I always come. Mrs. Patterson showed the class a picture of you on the news. She said you were brave. Tommy Miller said you were famous. I said you were just my dad. Just your dad. That's the best thing I am. She pulled back, looked up at him. Something in her face had changed. Not much, just a flicker. The awareness that the world was bigger and stranger and more complicated than she'd thought yesterday. Daddy, are we rich now? He knelt down, eye level. We have money, Lily. A lot of it. But that doesn't make us different. I'm still going to make your lunch. You're still going to do your homework. We're still going to be us. Can we be us with ice cream? He laughed, picked her up, put her on his shoulders. She grabbed his hair for balance, the way she always did. Yeah, baby. We can be us with ice cream. They walked to the bodega on the corner. Mr. Alvarez behind the counter looked up from his newspaper, saw Ethan's face, looked at the newspaper, looked at Ethan again. Mercer, you're the guy from... 2 vanilla cones, please. Mr. Alvarez stared for another second, then shrugged, scooped ice cream. $3.50. Ethan paid, exact change, the way he always did. They sat on the bench outside, Lily's cone dripping down her fingers, Ethan's melting because he forgot to eat it, too busy watching her. Daddy? Yeah? Are you still scared? He thought about it, about tomorrow's board meetings and FBI investigations, and a world that now knew his name, about Victoria Ashford in a federal holding cell, and Marcus Webb making deals with prosecutors, about the 60,000 employees whose livelihoods depended on decisions he'd make at a table he'd sat at for the first time 3 hours ago. A little. That's okay. Scared means brave, Mommy said. Mommy was right. Mommy was always right. Yeah, she was. Lily licked her cone, kicked her feet against the bench. A perfectly ordinary moment in a perfectly extraordinary day. Ethan's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Whoever it was, The board, the press, the FBI, the entire world. They could wait. Right now, a man was eating ice cream with his daughter on a bench in Queens. And that mattered more than all of it. The ice cream stain on Lily's shirt was still there when Ethan tucked her in that night. Vanilla. A perfect circle on the collar of her favorite purple shirt. She'd fought him on changing it. "It's my battle shirt now, Daddy. Like your battle suit." He didn't argue. Pulled the covers up, tucked the elephant under her arm.
Daddy?
"Yeah?"
Tomorrow, can you make the pancakes with the faces?
"The ones with the blueberry eyes?"
And the banana smile. You always forget the banana smile.
"I won't forget."
Promise?
"Promise." She was asleep in 30 seconds, the way only children can sleep, completely, without negotiation, without the weight of everything pressing against the inside of their skull. Ethan sat on the floor outside her door for 20 minutes, not thinking, just sitting, letting the silence of the apartment do what silence does when you finally stop running from it. His phone was on the kitchen counter. He'd left it there on purpose. The buzzing had become a kind of heartbeat, constant, urgent, demanding. He could hear it vibrating against the laminate from the hallway. He got up, walked to the kitchen, picked it up. 106 new messages, 38 missed calls, 3 voicemails from Raymond marked urgent, a text from Diana that said, "Trial date set, call me," and 1 email from an address he didn't recognize. Subject line, from Victoria Ashford. He stared at it, thumb hovering. He opened it. "Mr. Mercer, my attorney advised me not to write this. I'm writing it anyway. I'm not going to apologize for believing you were a fraud. I've spent 20 years in rooms where people lie about who they are to get what they want. I assumed you were one of them. I was wrong. But I am going to apologize for the drawing. I've been thinking about it since they brought me here. The way you picked up those pieces, the way you held them. I didn't see a con man in that moment. I saw a father. And I tore up his daughter's art and threw it at his feet. My own father left when I was 9. He took everything. Left my mother with nothing. She cleaned offices for 16 years to keep me in school. I spent my entire life making sure I'd never be powerless like her. And last night, I looked at you, a parent who reminded me of everything I came from, and I punished you for it. That doesn't excuse what I did. Nothing excuses it. But I wanted you to know that the woman who tore that drawing understands, now, in this cell, what it costs to destroy something a child made with love. I'm going to prison. I earned it. Run the company better than I did. That won't be hard. V. Ashford. Ethan read it twice, then closed his phone, set it face down on the counter. He didn't know what to feel, so he didn't try. He just made tomorrow's lunch. PB&J, apple slices. A note on a napkin. "You're my sunshine. Love, Daddy." The same note he wrote every day. The same lunch he'd packed 1,000 times. Some things don't change. That was the point. The FBI raided Victoria's home 3 days later. 6 in the morning. Agents in windbreakers. Boxes carried out for hours. Her husband. They'd separated 2 years ago, but never finalized the divorce. Watched from across the street with his own attorney. The raid lasted until noon. They found everything Raymond said they would, and more. Offshore accounts, shell company records, emails detailing every fraudulent transaction. A personal journal where Victoria had tracked her theft with the meticulous precision of someone who never believed she'd be caught. Total amount stolen, $23.4 million. More than the original estimate. Some of it had been funneled into personal real estate. a house in the Hamptons, a condo in Miami. Both purchased under LLC names that trace back to Victoria through a chain of paperwork that took federal accountants 3 weeks to unravel. Marcus Webb turned state's witness within 48 hours. He sat in a room with 2 FBI agents and a prosecutor and gave them everything. Names, dates, account numbers. He'd been Victoria's right hand for 7 years, and he'd kept records the way a man keeps records when he knows the ship might sink. She told me it was restructuring, Marcus said in his deposition. Creative accounting, tax optimization. I believed her for the first 2 years. After that, I didn't believe her. But I stayed because she paid me $400,000 a year, and I had a mortgage. The prosecutor asked, "Did you ever consider reporting the fraud?" Marcus looked at the table. Every day. And every day I decided my comfort was more important than doing the right thing. What changed? A man in a cheap suit stood in a hotel lobby and refused to leave. And a woman who paid me $400,000 a year tore up his daughter's drawing. And I realized I'd been standing next to that woman for 7 years, and I was no different. Ethan didn't watch the depositions. Diana kept him informed. Raymond handled the legal coordination with the FBI. Ethan's job was the company. And for the first 6 weeks, the company nearly broke him. Board meetings that lasted 5 hours. Financial reports he read 3 times to understand. Conference calls with investors who wanted reassurance that a warehouse worker wouldn't drive their stock into the ground. He stumbled. Badly. In the second week, he approved a contract without reading the liability clause. Diana caught it before it was signed, but the mistake cost them 2 days of renegotiation and a board member's confidence. "You can't sign things you haven't read," Diana told him. Not angry, direct. "I know, I got overwhelmed." "You'll get overwhelmed again. That's fine. But slow down. Ask questions. Nobody expects you to know everything. They expect you to be honest about what you don't know." He got better, week by week. Not because he suddenly understood corporate finance, but because he understood people. 30 years of night shifts and warehouse floors and PTA meetings and making things work on nothing had given him something no MBA could. The ability to listen. To hear what people weren't saying. To know when someone was struggling, because he'd been struggling his entire life. He walked the floors, every floor. Talked to employees, not executives, employees. The woman in the mailroom who'd worked there for 22 years and never been asked her opinion on anything. The security guard who'd been at the gala that night and felt sick about not stepping in. The young programmer who'd reported a concern about the Apex contracts to HR 8 months ago and been told to mind his own business. "What happened when you reported it?" Ethan asked him. "Nothing. HR said they'd look into it. They never did." "What would you have wanted to happen?" "I wanted someone to listen, that's all. Just listen." Ethan restructured the whistleblower program that week. Anonymous reporting, independent review, protection guaranteed. He put Frank DeLuca, the maintenance man who'd held up the welcome sign, on the Employee Advisory Committee. "Me," Frank had said, "I fix air conditioners." "You've been here 31 years. You know this building better than anyone. I need people who'll tell me the truth, not people who'll tell me what I want to hear." "You might not like the truth." "I never do. That's how I know it's true." The trial began 4 months after the gala. Federal Courthouse, downtown Manhattan. Media everywhere. Ethan sat in the gallery. Not the front row, 3rd row. Quiet. He didn't want this to be about him. Victoria entered in a prison uniform. She'd aged. Not just physically. Something behind her eyes had dimmed. The fire was still there. It would always be there. But it burned differently now. Inward instead of outward. She saw Ethan. Their eyes met for 2 seconds. She nodded, barely perceptible. He nodded back. The trial lasted 2.5 weeks. The prosecution was methodical. Every transaction documented. Every shell company traced. Every dollar accounted for. Marcus Webb testified for 6 hours. Jessica Chen, Victoria's former assistant, testified for 3, producing emails and internal memos that left no room for doubt. Victoria's defense argued desperation, a woman who'd come from nothing, who'd clawed her way to the top, who'd made bad decisions under pressure. Her attorney painted a picture of a self-made woman who lost her way. The jury didn't buy it. You don't accidentally create 6 shell companies and route $23 million through Caribbean bank accounts. Ethan testified on the 8th day. He wore the same navy suit, tape drawing in his pocket. He told the story simply. The gala, the humiliation, the drawing. He didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, answered every question with the quiet precision of a man who'd spent his life being underestimated and had learned that the truth doesn't need decoration. The defense attorney tried to rattle him. "Mr. Mercer, isn't it true that you entered the gala without a formal invitation?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that you refused to leave when asked?" "I refused to leave before anyone reviewed my documents, yes." "So you can understand why Ms. Ashford might have perceived you as a threat." Ethan looked at him. "I'm 170 pounds in a 4-year-old suit. She had 2 security guards, 300 guests, and a building full of staff. If she felt threatened by me, that says more about her than it does about me." The defense had no redirect. Guilty. All 19 counts. The foreman read each one, and each one landed in the courtroom like a nail being driven into wood. Victoria stood still through all of them. Didn't flinch, didn't cry, just stood. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Judge Maria Hernandez, 61. Known for being fair and merciless in equal measure. "Miss Ashford, you stole $23.4 million from a company entrusted to you. You exploited the death of its founder. You attempted to victimize his heir. You showed no remorse until apprehension." Victoria stood, her attorney beside her. "I sentence you to 28 years in federal prison, eligible for parole in 18. Victoria's knees buckled. Her attorney caught her arm. She steadied, straightened, looked at the judge. "Thank you, Your Honor." 2 words. The courtroom murmured. Victoria turned, walked toward the door where marshals waited. She passed Ethan's row, stopped. "Take care of that drawing," she said. "I will." She walked on. Marshals flanked her. The door closed. She was gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ethan stood at the microphones, same suit, same calm. Justice was served today, not because Victoria Ashford is going to prison, but because the system worked. The employees of Pinnacle Tech deserve a company that's honest. My daughter deserves an inheritance that's clean. And Howard Belmont deserves to know his legacy is in good hands. He paused, looked directly into the cameras. "I want to say one more thing. To every father working a double shift right now, to every single parent eating cereal for dinner so their kid can have the real meal, to every person who's ever walked into a room and felt like they didn't belong." He held up the taped drawing. Lily's purple heart, the visible tear, the clear tape holding it together. This is the most powerful thing in the world. Not money, not a title, not a corner office. A child's love. It's unbreakable. Even when someone tears it apart, You can put it back together. And it still works. The heart still holds. He put the drawing back in his pocket. Go home. Hug your kids. That's all that matters. He walked away. No more questions, no more cameras. Just a man in a cheap suit walking down the courthouse steps. Raymond was waiting at the car. The press wants more. The press has enough. The board wants to discuss the foundation launch. Tomorrow. Diana needs you to review the... Raymond. Yes? I'm picking up my daughter. Then we're going to the bodega for ice cream. Then we're going home. Everything else can wait. Raymond opened the car door. Didn't argue. The Sarah Mercer Foundation launched 1 month later. $30 million. Not 50. Ethan didn't believe in announcements that sounded like performances. 30 million, allocated specifically. Free legal aid for single parents. Childcare subsidies. Education scholarships. Financial literacy programs. Every dollar tracked. Every program measured. No shell companies, no creative accounting. Just money going where it was supposed to go. Ethan didn't name it after himself. Named it after the woman who started everything by walking away from a fortune because she wanted a life that was real. The first grant went to a single father in Detroit. 2 kids. Night shift at an auto plant. His landlord was evicting him because he'd missed 1 month's rent while his son was in the hospital. The foundation covered 6 months of rent, the medical bills, and a lawyer who made sure the eviction was reversed. Ethan called him personally. Mr. Mercer, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just go home to your kids. How do I pay this back? You don't. Someday, when you can, you help someone else. That's how it works. A year passed. Pinnacle Tech stock was up 31%. Revenue grew. Employee satisfaction hit the highest numbers in the company's history. The Employee Advisory Committee Frank DeLuca sat on had implemented 23 policy changes, all of them small, all of them meaningful. Longer parental leave. Subsidized childcare. A fund for employees facing emergencies. Ethan still took the subway to work 3 days a week. He'd moved, not to a mansion, but to a house in the same neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, a backyard. Lily had a tire swing and a dog named Biscuit, who ate shoes. He still made her lunch every morning. PB&J, apple slices, a note on a napkin. The tapes drawing hung in his office. 47th floor, right next to the window where Manhattan spread out below. Visitors saw it immediately. Some asked about it. Most didn't need to. They'd seen the video. They knew. Beside it, framed, was a new drawing. Lily had made it on the 1-year anniversary. 3 stick figures this time. A tall one, a small one, and one with wings floating above them. Daddy and Lily and Mommy in heaven. The heart was even bigger this time. It took up 1/4 of the page. Ethan was in his office when the call came. A year and 2 months after the gala. Diana knocked. There's a man downstairs. Security flagged him. He's not on any list. He says he needs to see you. Who is he? Won't give his name. Just says he drove 4 hours and he's not leaving until he talks to you. What does he look like? Mid-30s, work boots, holding a folder. Ethan went still. Send him up. The man who walked into his office was 36. Hispanic. Calloused hands. Paint on his jeans. He held a folder the way Ethan had held his that night at the gala. Tight, like it contained something precious and fragile and easily destroyed. Mr. Mercer, my name is Carlos Gutierrez. I'm a house painter from Newark. I'm also the sole heir to a manufacturing company my grandfather built. My uncle has been running it for 8 years. He's been stealing from it. Everyone tells me I can't fight him because I'm nobody. I'm just a painter. Carlos held out the folder. His hand shook. I watched your video, the one from the gala. I watched it 40 times, and I thought, if a warehouse worker can walk into a room full of billionaires and take back what's his, maybe a house painter can too. Ethan took the folder, opened it, looked at the documents. Familiar pattern. Trust papers. Financial irregularities. A family legacy being devoured by someone who thought they were untouchable. He looked at Carlos, saw himself, 12 months ago. Scared, overwhelmed, standing in a doorway with everything to lose. Sit down, Carlos. You'll help me? I'll do better than that. Ethan picked up his phone. Raymond, I need you up here. And call Diana. We have work to do. He turned back to Carlos. You're not nobody. And your uncle just ran out of time. Carlos sat down, exhaled. The sound of a man putting down something he'd been carrying alone for years. That evening, Ethan picked up Lily from school. Same fence, same chaos, same 7-year-old explosion through the door. Daddy! Hey, baby. I got a gold star in reading. That's my girl. And Tommy Miller said his dad saw you on TV again. What did you say? I said, my dad's on TV because he's nice to people. Is that right? That's exactly right. They walked to the bodega. Mr. Alvarez had their cones ready before they reached the counter. 2 vanilla, $3.50. Ethan paid exact change. They sat on the bench. Daddy? Yeah? A boy at school said we're rich. What did you tell him? I told him we have ice cream. That's the same thing. Ethan pulled her close, kissed the top of her head, smelled strawberry shampoo, the cheap kind from the dollar store. He could afford the expensive kind now. He still bought the cheap kind. Lily liked the smell. That was enough. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out. Text from Frank DeLuca. Boss, the break room drawing is getting old. Lily got any new ones? The guys are asking. Ethan showed it to Lily. The people at Daddy's work want a new drawing. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? For the whole building? For the break room? That's like a gallery. I'm an artist in a gallery. You sure are. I'm going to make the best one ever, with glitter. Please, no glitter. All the glitter. Ethan laughed. Lily laughed. Mr. Alvarez laughed from behind the counter, though he probably couldn't hear them. The sun was going down. The bodega's neon sign buzzed to life. Traffic hummed. Somewhere in Manhattan, a company worth $6 billion was running smoothly because a warehouse worker from Queens had walked into a room where he didn't belong and refused to leave. Somewhere in a federal prison, a woman who once tore a child's drawing in half was staring at a concrete wall, thinking about the sound paper makes when it rips. Somewhere in Newark, a house painter was sitting in his truck, staring at a folder, finally believing that his story might end differently than he'd feared. And right here, on a bench outside a bodega in Queens, a father and daughter were eating ice cream. Vanilla. The cheap kind. The kind that drips down your fingers if you don't eat fast enough. Lily leaned against Ethan's arm. Daddy? Yeah, baby? I love you really big. I love you really big, too. Bigger than the company? Bigger than everything. She nodded, satisfied, went back to her cone. Ethan looked at the sky, orange and purple, Sarah's favorite colors. He touched his pocket, felt the drawing, the tape, the heart that held. He'd kept his promise, every one of them, to Sarah, to Lily, to Howard Belmont, who'd trusted a stranger with his legacy, to himself, The version of himself who'd stood in a queen's apartment 8 months ago, terrified, holding a dead wife's secret, wondering if he was enough. He was enough. He'd always been enough. He just needed the world to stop talking long enough to prove it. The streetlights came on. Lily finished her cone, wiped her hands on her battle shirt, the one with the ice cream stain that she'd never let him wash. "Ready to go home?" Ethan asked. "Ready." He took her hand, small fingers wrapped around his. They walked down the sidewalk, past the laundromat, past the bodega, past the fire hydrant where Lily liked to balance, past all of it, toward home. Behind them, the city kept moving. Millions of lights, millions of stories, millions of people carrying folders full of things they were afraid to show the world. Ethan Mercer had shown his, and the world had listened. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, not because he owned 74% of anything, because he was a father who kept his promises, because he stood up when it would have been easier to walk away, because he taped together a torn heart and put it on the fridge and never forgot what mattered. The man Victoria Ashford had looked at and seen nothing turned out to be everything. Not a CEO, not a billionaire, a father. That was always enough. That was always the whole story. Ethan and Lily walked home through the fading light, hand in hand. He didn't look back. There was nothing behind him that mattered more than what was right beside him. And the drawing in his pocket, taped, torn, imperfect, and unbreakable, beat against his chest like a second heart.